Hi, I've got your energy story for the third week of February 2026. The last few weeks have seen numerous announcements by U.S. companies active in fusion energy. I briefly touched on the technology in a video about a month ago, but since then, there's been a recent spate of announcements, so I thought it was time to dig in a little bit deeper, highlight who's doing what, and what the future prospects appear to be for a technology humans have been trying to harness for many decades now. First, let's briefly explain fusion. Get out your textbooks. With fission, you take a heavy and unstable nucleus such as uranium-235 or plutonium-239 and make it absorb a neutron, which causes the original nucleus to split into two smaller nuclei in addition to more neutrons. That process releases energy and creates a chain reaction. By contrast with fusion, you cause two light nuclei, usually hydrogen isotopes deuterium and tritium, to collide, and they merge into heavier nucleus such as helium, which releases energy. The sun is an enormous fusion reactor, so almost all of today's energy sources, if you think about it, solar, hydro, coal, oil, and gas, they're indirect sources of fusion energy that originated from the sun. But for commercial fusion, three things need to happen. First, one has to get the temperature of the process high enough, around 50 to 150 million degrees centigrade, so the nuclei move fast enough to fuse frequently. Then you need sufficient density, so you have more opportunities for collisions between nuclei so they can fuse and release energy. And finally, you need to confine the reaction, keeping the plasma both dense and hot enough so that you get a net energy output. Oh, and what's plasma? It's probably best defined as a state of matter, solids, liquids, gases. Well, this is the fourth one. It's where a gas is so highly energized that a bunch of its atoms have lost one or more electrons, so you have this mixture of free electrons and ions, which sounds like a hell of a frat party to me and the kind I never got invited to. Confinement of said plasma can be created with the inertia of a compressed pellet or by using magnetic fields. The pellet confinement approach, inertial confinement fusion or ICF, that's the one that was employed by Lawrence Livermore Laboratory when it achieved a net energy output. More energy was released from the reaction than was delivered by the lasers to the hydrogen pellets for that first time, a feat it has since repeated. Here, the game is to compress a small fuel pellet, typically hydrogen, very rapidly and with high density so it fuses before it can break apart. With magnetic confinement, there are two main technologies. There are tokamaks, which are donut-shaped devices that combine magnets with an electric current in the plasma to construct a sort of magnetic cage or a bottle. And then there are stellarators. They employ magnetic coils that yield twisted magnetic fields that don't require large currents in the plasma. Different companies are pursuing different approaches among these two main lines, inertia and magnetism. Per a recent Bloomberg article, the majority of startups are following the magnetic approach, but only the inertia approach has thus far actually created a reaction that delivers more energy than was needed to trigger it. So-called Q is greater than 1. That's what Lawrence Livermore did. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's break down these recent announcements by category and discuss what they mean, starting with technical achievements and then moving to commercial progress and latest investment announcements. The major technical move that caught my attention was Helium's announcement that it had used deuterium fuel to achieve plasma temps of close to 150 degrees centigrade, up 50% over its most recent results. Helium, you may recall, that's the company that signed an agreement with Microsoft to deliver 50 megawatts of energy to the grid by 2028, and if they don't, they pay penalties. It uses hydrogen compression and magnet technology in a hybrid to make this happen. So, getting closer with the temperatures. On the commercial front, Type 1 Energy and the Tennessee Valley Authority are moving forward with plans for a 350 megawatt fusion plant based on the stellarator technology, and the licensing process for that is now underway. Perhaps somewhat surprisingly, they plan on construction starting as early as 2028. And in the licensing department, Thea Energy announced recently it's received a Department of Energy certification for its pilot stellarator design, and they're the first to do so under DOE's milestone-based fusion development program. Then in financing, Avalanche Energy said it had received $29 million in new investor funding, and its CEO cited, quote, significant breakthroughs on the plasma physics side, unquote, and plans to secure a license for commercial scale operations and a test program. Avalanche is developing a tiny fusion reactor between 1 and 100 kW that would be small enough to sit on one's desk, and I certainly want one of those. The idea here is to use smaller prototypes that enable the company to quickly develop through rapid iterations and then scale larger machines that are suitable for various applications. Avalanche uses a hybrid tech that confines high-speed ions orbiting around a central cathode in a vacuum chamber that then is surrounded by a magnetic bottle. Also in the financial space, and not to be outdone, Inertia Enterprises announced it had raised close to $450 million to construct what it characterizes as one of the planet's most powerful lasers, combined with a plant slated to come online by 2030. And it also said it will make a facility to manufacture fuel pellets. And competitor General Fusion heralded a definitive agreement to go public at about $1 billion through a SPAC this spring, making it the first pure play on the stock market if that happens. All these announcements, and probably some I missed, have occurred within just the past 6 weeks or so. There's enough noise coming out of this fusion space to suggest there's finally, after decades of waiting, a there. Of course, we have all the challenges that bedevil any new technology: technical issues, licensing, supply chain, and the critical need to deliver electricity at a competitive price. There are many different animals and hybrids in this who's who in the fusion zoo, but we might actually see steel in the ground and commercial delivery in the near future. The question then will be, how does it compare against everything else out there that delivers electricity, and can it cost-effectively scale? Well, through the middle of last year, the industry garnered almost $10 billion in support, according to a Fusion Industry Association report released in July, and billions have been invested since that date, including $863 million in Conwell Fusion. So just possibly, fusion energy is about to have its long-awaited day in the sun. Well, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.